All right. Good morning.
There. Good morning, sir. How are
Doing
you?
good. Good. Back from some travel. It took me a. I flew instead of drove this time, but I ended up coming down with a bit of a head cold, which is annoying. But other than that, week went well. And how about
So
yourself?
you are back. I thought you were still up
No,
north.
no,
So you've
I'm back.
come back. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I just went for. I was up there like 4 days,
All
4 nights,
right.
something like that.
Okay.
But
Yeah, flying's better. Making that drive, right? That's like a 10
well,
hour.
I enjoy the drive, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it does take a day and take it out of you. But and it's better in like the fall or the summer when the mountains look real beautiful and stuff. I didn't want to risk, of course, going through an ice storm or something.
That's not a good place in the mountains of West Virginia to be driving through an ice storm. Not good.
Right, right.
Yeah. All right.
But well, cool. Well, welcome back everybody to Military Retirement Blueprint Show. This is where Mike Wallace from Blue Water Advisors and I from US Vet Wealth get together and talk about all things that come up during and after the military retirement process. Because even when you transition out of the military, for those of us that have been out for a few years, we kind of realize you never quite transition. You're always thinking back to, oh, well, this is how we did stuff in the military, or a new opportunity comes up, or something you just hadn't thought of before, comes up. And so that's what we like to talk about on this show. We hit on everything from talking about the finances and your benefit decisions, right, in the years and before and right after military retirement, to the most stressful thing is, what do I do next?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No doubt.
how do I find my next career path? What do I want that to look like? Whether it's a whole new career or just going to knock out 5 or 10 years, what's the best way to do that where you feel like you have that sense of purpose again? And so Mike's had 500 retirees go through his Blue Water Advisors cohort program, and from that has learned a lot, and he's always sharing his insights on here. And I've also worked with 100 military retirees talking about the financial aspects of their retirement. So when you have questions, reach out to us on LinkedIn. Happy to chat, or you can visit our websites, and we've got free guides and stuff you can download. But today's topic is a part two, on diving more into. All right, so I've done my job analysis. I kind of get an idea of the types of companies or industries I want to work for. I've been networking out there, having conversations, but at some time they're going to start asking me questions about myself, whether that's just tell me about yourself, or how would you handle this situation, more standardized job interview type stuff. And that's not typically something you do very often, and especially not in a business sense, while on active duty. So we know that is one of the additional stressors where it's like, okay, I'm on, for this moment. And so I know Mike has written a guide, has some videos out there, and I think this will be part of a new video series on
We'd like to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So last week we talked more about, hey, when does the interview actually start?
Or we tried to, Scott. We tried to talk. We had some IT woes last week, right?
Hey, that's something to think about during an interview process, because a lot of these might happen during Zoom, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is okay and understandable. And I think we did get through the the introduction of the theme of this topic. But do you want to rehash that quickly before we get into phase two?
I mean, I think for the listeners, right, when we kicked off the topic, right, we talked about as much as when members come to a cohort, Scott, you'll get this. We try to talk about different topics throughout the career progression or transition cycle, right? In other words, get in the right mindset, design or have your strategy, design your career progression, do your market analysis, filtering down what you're looking at, how to assess what you're looking at as a good fit. And then there's a social media aspect or targeting a resume aspect. And then there's prepping for your interview and negotiating compensation. And so that's the spectrum. And while we very, succinctly cover each individual topic so we can tease out the highlights in that, the fact of the matter is in execution, when you step into, your transition, or as we like to say, career progression, you can be in several of those areas at one time. You with me? I mean, you can still be refining your strategy, and now all of a sudden you see something that you're interested in, and perhaps somebody from that company or industry reaches out to you, like in very short order. You're in that full spectrum, right? So from an educational point of view or mentoring, point of view, it's easy to talk about each of these individual sections. But in execution, you can be in several of these areas at one time. And so that's really where we started last week. We said, hey, when does the interview, right? That's going to be the focus of this discussion, and how to prep for that and how to answer these questions. When does that really start? And I'm going to tell you, it starts way back, much sooner than what you ever thought. If you're just out on a soccer field on a weekend and you bump into somebody because your kids are playing soccer together, and all of a sudden you're just having what you think is a off the record discussion, right, about a potential opportunity. Let me remind everybody, nothing is ever off the record when you're looking for your next success. And guess what? You just started the interview process, right? You're like, no, Mike, come on, this is just a guy out on a field. And I'm going, don't lull yourself into that false sense of security. You are talking to somebody about a potential opportunity. Business is, in his mind, he is assessing you right there, right then. Do you have what we are potentially looking for, or what we are looking for right now? And he's assessing you. And so for you to not treat it as that, right? It's just not helping you out, right? It's just not putting you in the right mindset. Does that make sense? I mean, you're starting in this process a heck of a lot earlier than you would officially like to think you are. And I think a lot of our members approach career progression and they want these clear, I'm in this phase, got it, I'm done. Now I'm in this phase, got it, I'm done. Now I'm doing this, got it, I'm done. And you can be in the full spectrum of a lot of this stuff. You might be right there on the soccer field, and the guy right there who, unbeknownst to you, perhaps is a hiring manager, and he goes, hey, Scott, just tell me, what are you looking for compensation wise? And you're like, wait a minute, this is a first contact. I'm just having a conversation. And now the guy is asking me about compensation. You just span 3 or 4 of these sections, right? In a 15-minute discussion right here. Right?
Yeah. Because if that goes well, then it's just like, yeah, send me your resume so I can put it through the system. And it's
It's exactly right. And we try to caution members, don't be caught off guard, which is why you have to be well-versed and prepared in all of these areas before you ever start reaching out and having a networking discussion or talk to anybody about anything, right? So that was really kind of what the sum of what we tried to talk about last week, right? And then internet woes and everybody gets it, IT kind of thing. So we jumped in a little bit, right? How to, start to prepare for these kind of discussions, and a little bit how this in the at-will work environment, this engagement might differ from a military engagement. And it really starts to go into a mindset and a shift in mindset, Scott. And by that, I mean, I want members to understand that in this new world, it's not really about you. It's about them, right? And the part that is about you is what you're going to do for them, right? Mm-hmm. And in a little bit in the military, we bring with us past experiences, accolades, qualifications, where it is kind of all about us. And hey, have I jumped over all these hurdles? And if I have, yes. And if I successfully did that in a competitive environment, yes. And if I was ranked by my peers to be, at this certain level, then I can move into this new bucket, right? In the civilian world, as much as what we like, people say, I don't want to do sales. Listen, everybody's in sales, so it's the art of bringing some of that insight in and around you, but making it relevant to them, right? You got to make it relevant to them. And part one of that is spending some time and understanding what's going on in the company. What are their challenges? The individual that you're talking with, learning about, their team, some of the barriers that the team is facing, and what skill sets might be beneficial to that team to help them raise the bar and deliver results, etc. Right? It's about them, right? It's about them. And many of our members have heard me say this. I hate the term elevator pitch. Scott, I think that's a dated term, and I just think that sets members up for failure, because an elevator pitch is, hey, this is me. I did these things. I'm a wonderful person. I've done this for 20 years. I did this for 10 years. I've got these accolades, and I've always had a desire to go do this. And so this is all about me, and this is what I want to go do. And really, as a hiring manager, I'm going, yeah, okay, great. But what didn't you say in that elevator pitch? Well, you didn't say anything about the type of work really that you wanted to do. You didn't say anything about having an understanding of what my challenges are and what you're going to do for me, given the opportunity to come to work on my team, right? That's, as a hiring manager, that's what I'm interested in. You're going to throw out a lot of fancy stuff out there. And really, quite honestly, most of it I'm not interested in. But when you get done with all that and we get zeroed in on the conversation, here's what my challenges are. What can you do for me? Right. Mm-hmm. And just that mindset. And I plant these seeds early on, because when we get to talk about answering some of these interview questions, that's really, when you practice these things, how do you make it relevant to them? Right. That's really the hat trick, right? In your responses, how do you make it relevant to them? So that kind of takes me to, let's talk first just about the different types of interviews that are out there, and maybe the anatomy of an interview, right? Some people just say, yeah, when you really get down to it, and I'm not talking about the full spectrum, you're in the interview process as soon as you start networking. Make no mistake about it, right? But for the, construct, for somebody reaching out to you and say, Mike, we want to bring you to an interview, right? And we formally in the arena, if you will, what does the anatomy of that look like, and what different types of interviews? So you might have an interview that is maybe conducted by one individual over a period of time. You might step into an interview environment that is what we call a panel style interview, right? Where you're either online or in person, and there's maybe 3 or 4 people in the room or on the call. Maybe there's different areas. Maybe the hiring manager is there. Maybe the HR rep is there. Maybe a coworker, a teammate is there, and they're all trying to assess you from different vantage points, right? Got to get my hit of caffeine to keep me going here. So you could have a panel style interview. When I was at Amazon, we did what's called loop interviews, and these were several individuals over one-on-one sessions. So I would meet with one individual for a period of time, and when I was done, I was handed off to another individual for a one-on-one discussion, and then another individual for a one-on-one discussion, etc. And you would do 4 or 5 of those, and that constituted their makeup of an interview.
Just let me ask you about that real quick.
Yeah.
And that's not like, oh, you're passing them. Oh, they qualified and passed the next stage. They're going to talk to all 4 or 5 of those people, no matter what.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And here's the, perhaps stating the obvious, nothing is off the record. Nothing is off the record. So for you to think that those individuals in a loop style interview will not huddle up after the fact and compare and contrast and share notes on you, you're kidding yourself. That's exactly the structure, right? We're going to get together and I'm going to say, hey, Scott, you talked to Mike for 45 minutes. What did you think? Well, I asked him these questions and here was his responses. And it seemed kind of like what we were looking for. Oh, funny. I asked him these questions and he gave me the exact same responses. Okay, so that's a little bit of a red flag, right? Am I unidimensional or am I multidimensional? Do I have a lot to share with different interviewers or am I just giving the same story over and over, right? These are some things that you got to start getting into the head of the people that are looking at you, and what you're going to show them, right? So you could just have a one-on-one interview. It might be in person, online. Online still is a fairly common forum. Talking to Steve Weeman, he said most of the interviews that Booz does now, pretty much the majority of those are online, right? The technology is still pretty good and you can still get a pretty good assessment, but there are still some companies that do it, in person. And I like that, right? I like the in-person.
Yeah. Does that change depending on whether or not it's going to be a remote job or not, or if you're going to be working in the office? Eventually they're going to, want to kind of see you interact like how you would in the office space, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a lot of companies that, given the opportunity, and if proximity is not a challenge, right, you're absolutely gonna, hey, I want to bring you in, I want to talk to you, right? And
Are they still flying people out if you're in a different city? Is that
well,
kind of thing happen?
some companies will do that still, right? It's not to say that they may not leverage technology in a an online environment, for a portion of that, but I mean, you think about it. A hiring action is the single most expensive action, repetitive action that they will take. Investing in people, right? That's and I'm going to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this work. Yeah, I want to make sure I get the decision right, because if I goon this up, right, I'm wasted time from a company's perspective, right? I have to start over, et cetera, right? So just recognize the different type of interview environment that you may be stepping into, and how are you going to approach this, right? There is some strategy. Like if you're going to a panel style interview, I see somebody from HR, I see a hiring manager, I see a teammate, and just being able to a little bit understand what is their approach to me. A teammate may ask me questions. Hey, Mike, why don't you tell me about a time where you were working with a larger team and skills in and around support of additional team members and meeting a common goal. How did you do that? What did that look like? And what was the outcome, right? He wants to know, man, I'm going to be working with this guy. Can I work with him? Does he have my back? Is he going to do his fair share of the heavy lifting, right? Maybe the HR person, right, wants to understand things from a little bit different perspective, right? Their slant in line of questioning may be different. The hiring manager, man, he wants to know, are you a good fit and are you going to help me raise the bar and ultimately deliver results for the company that I'm employed to do, right? What value add are you going to bring? So just understanding different lines of approach from people that are interviewing you. And so, when you are stepping into that construct, right, that official interview environment, knowing who's going to be asking the questions is important. And that most of the time is information that's discoverable, right? You can reach out to the company. Hey, I'm online for an interview next Wednesday. Hey, Scott, can you tell me who's going to be conducting the interview? And companies don't hide that, right? They'll share that. Yeah, it's going to be this and this and this, right? Okay. And so you can kind of do a little bit of, I call it, I'm doing air quotes, stalking, if you will, online to see what this person's background is and what approach they may be coming from, right? So that begins, right, the discussion there and different types of interviews. The anatomy of an interview, pretty much, most of those, one-on-one or panel style or loop style interviews, they kind of in general fall into an anatomy that looks something like this. You've got maybe the first 3 to 5 minutes. I call it niceties. I call this the icebreaker phase. I call, when I was interviewing a lot, I utilized this time to put the member at ease, right? And very ironically, I would go to great lengths to not ask complicated questions. It might sound something like, "Hey, Scott, really appreciate you, making the time to join us here today. We're really excited. I know it's been a process to get to here. You've been through several screen calls and everything. And man, I'm just really happy that we've finally got the time, Scott, one-on-one. You and I can just sit down and we can just focus on this. Hey, just to kick it off, Scott, I was wondering if you just might be able to tell me a little bit about yourself, right? Just tell me a little bit about yourself without regurgitating your resume, but just a little bit about yourself and what brings you here today. Like, from an interviewer's perspective, low-hanging fruit, easy question, right? What do you think the number one question people stub their toe on in an interview?
Yeah. Is it oversharing or just
like how you want to answer a question like this? There are several different models. We have a star format. We have a 1/3 format, and an icebreaker question like this, a little bit about the past, a little bit about the present, and a little bit about what the future looks like. And do that in about, 1 minute segments, as you're trying to answer the question. Hey, Scott, thanks for the question. Hey, listen, man, I just want to tell you, I'm really excited, and I'm really upbeat on the company. You probably recall from a little bit of a review of the information that, I shared with the screeners and say, I've spent the last 20 some odd years active duty in aviation, and I've always had a passion for these kind of things. As I started to make this career progression, I was really looking for those companies that was invested in this type of industry, this type of technology, and supporting this type of customer doing these kind of things, right? And a little bit of, 60 seconds on a little bit about the present. And I'm just really looking forward to the opportunity, the team, Scott, that you've put together out there doing these kind of things. I really think this is a great fit for my hard and soft skills that I'm bringing to the table. Look forward to the opportunity to discuss with you further about raising the bar, delivering results, and driving the company and this team strategically in the direction that leadership wants it to go. Right? A little bit about the past, a little bit about the present, a little bit about the future, and then let's move on. What do we see many people stub their toe on? What do you think? You already said.
Well, in 2004, I deployed to OIF 3, and then
it's even worse than that. Scott. In 1987, I graduated from this high school, and my mascot was this, and I played football, and I was on the wrestling team, and are you kidding me? And I'm just, as an interviewer, I'm like, oh, for crying out loud, man. Like, and 23 minutes later, this person is still telling me what they did in college before they ever got, it's just insane. You have to remember, you have got to make every response relevant to me.
But,
right?
But does it, but still, I mean, does it help to share some personal stuff? Hey, I'm from a small Midwest town. Ended up going to the academy, served in the military. Really enjoyed my experience, with leadership and, in a big organization like that. But now I'm at my career progression. I mean, how much of your personal, I enjoy, barbecuing on the weekends. What do you want to share?
A little bit, right? And what I tell members is, if as you're doing your deep dive on who is going to interview you see that you have some intersections on common pursuits, common side hustles, whatever. That's a great thing. Maybe tangentially in your 1/3 discussion, a little bit about the past, a little bit about the present, a little bit about what the future looks like through your lens. And you could probably wrap that up and, say, hey, Scott, and I just noticed, and I was kind of doing a little bit of deep diving. You also, too, are a great connoisseur of weekend barbecuing and things. And I enjoy that as well too. In fact, Scott, I just entered into the the Hampton Roads barbecue competition. I took second place. So, hey, if you need any tips, right, I'm right here for you, right? Something fun, maybe 20 seconds, 10 seconds, but man, I wouldn't take the bulk of that response, right?
It's like trying to, when you're making a LinkedIn connection, if you happen to notice something on their profile where you can have a personal connection, where they're going to, I mean, hey, that's all about connection. So if you do see an opportunity to connect more deeply with someone, it is funny how human psychology works. So they say, "Oh, you're from Ohio. I'm from Ohio."
Absolutely, right. And it's just
so mine as well.
It's just being aware of those kind of things and weaving them in. But I wouldn't have that overshadow a response that's relevant to the company and the team that you're pursuing. Does that make sense?
So, yeah. So regardless, you're always want to find a way to reframe it.
Yeah.
To why are you sitting here today? You're in their space. They invited you in.
Absolutely.
Bring value to every answer to the company.
So in the discussion of the anatomy, right, of an interview, right? So you've got that icebreaker. That's 3 to 5 minutes, right? And the questions are going to sound something like that. Hey, Scott, tell me about yourself. Hey, really excited to have you here. Finally, we're one-on-one. What brings you to the company here today and why you're interested in it? Some kind of icebreaker. And it's really meant to put you at ease, to get you talking, because you will know when you're done with the introductory icebreaker phase, you will be into what we call, this is the lion's share part of the interview, and it will be filled with situational based questions, competency based type of questions. And the question you will know when you're in this portion of the interview, as it will sound something like this. Hey, Scott, can you tell me about a time when, right? And then fill in the blank, right? So it might sound something like, a situational based question. Hey, Scott, can you tell me about a time when, you were working, overseeing a project, and you were told that your funding for the project had really been reduced. Yet leadership that you were working for at the time still demanded, the same timeline for delivery. Scott, I was wondering if you might be able to share a time where, that was prevalent in your life. What was your approach? And then talk to me about what the outcome was. And so you're now into this situational based question. Tell me about a time when. And we really prescribe, and this is a very common format out there, but it's called the STAR format. It's the situation, task, action, and result. And I think most people are familiar with this. They're going, oh, yeah, great, Mike, you're talking to me about the STAR format. What most people don't talk about in the response, in the model used to respond is, the situation, task, and action that you took, great. Of your 3.5 minute response, I only want you to spend maybe about a minute talking about those three things. The bulk of what I want you to talk about was the result that you delivered. And when you're talking about the result, I want you to focus on speaking math. Math is the one language that transcends every industry, every company, everybody. It's the common language. Everybody speaks math. But, for example, if you end up saying, oh, well, yeah, Mike, I remember a time I was working for, it was a large command in the Navy, and the command was, the Commander Naval Air Atlantic here, headquartered in the Norfolk area. And, the tasking that I had received from the headquarters was to go ahead and we were moving buildings at the time, and we were going to shut down one building. We were moving a staff of 750 people to a new location, and we had to kind of figure this out. And we had some funding that was there, but it kind of trickled down. But, the leadership still came to me and go, hey, the building move still has to happen. How are we going to do this? This was the action that I took. I huddled everybody up. We created all these subgroups. Everybody divided up the roles and responsibilities and the taskings, developed a timeline, and we still executed. And the result was everybody landed in a new building.
Within 2 weeks,
Fantastic.
or whatever.
Yeah. And so I'm going to say, look, that's when we talk results, the result was, are you with me? The result was 0 lost man hours from a predicted 33% loss of man hours for a manpower cost and savings of $1.8 million over fiscal year 15. You with me? I mean, put the math in it. So I may not understand the military. I may not understand, but you know what? It was projected that you were going to lose 33% of your man hours in that move. And you did so, and you lost 0 man hours because of your approach. And you saved the entity that you worked for millions of dollars because of your approach. Man, I'm interested in that, right? I'm interested in that. And I may not understand the organization or anything. So I tell members, talk in math, speak in math. That's the language that we want you to do. And that's, oh, by the way, the same advice that we have when we're telling individuals to target their resume. Put the impact that you delivered, and don't just say delivered never before seen levels of efficiency. Are you kidding me? That means nothing to me. What mathematical impact? How many dollars did you make? Dollars did you save? You did something quicker, more efficiently, faster in comparison to previous year, previous 10 years, previous, 20 years, whatever. What was the efficiencies that you delivered?
Yeah, it's like, like you said earlier, this is all about sales. What's in it for me? And the 3 main areas of sales that people, are want to have happen for them is save me time,
Yeah.
save me money, make me money,
Yeah.
or help me lose weight.
Yeah. I mean,
but
it's the impact. It's the mathematical impact that you helped achieve, or that you achieved through your efforts.
Everybody enjoyed the process of moving buildings,
Yeah.
But so that makes me think, like, what if you weren't directly tracking some of those metrics, at the time? Is this something that's like, man, I just need to go back through my career and list out, 10, 20 situations that I could have on the ready.
Yeah.
And then, either see if I do have the math on that, or, try to gather that data, or do some estimates, or, what can you do to make sure you have results for each one of those little story blippets or blurbs that you can pull up at any time?
Yeah, if you're not tracking it year to year, it can be a little bit challenging for most of our leadership, our members, right? If they go back to, there's a paper trail. If they go back to their awards, if they go back to their fitness reports, right? If they go back to the paperwork, they can start to piece this together, right? Is it time consuming? Yes. Everybody's afforded an apology. I apologize. There's going to be some time involved here, but the information is there. And here's the wonderful thing. Once you grab those snippets, that's never throwaway work. You will use that information for countless numbers of interviews that you will do over and over again, because it's still, right, the milestone, the mathematical achievement that you did is still relevant in any number of discussions that are out there, right? And so it takes a little bit of time. We're pretty good at helping members tease that out. We're pretty good at getting them some metric to measure this success. In other words, they'll come to us and go, Mike, I don't think I made any money. And I go, okay, did you save money? Well, I don't think I saved any money either. Okay, did you do it with more or less people than the organization used last year? To go, hey, as a matter of fact, Mike, we were short on staff by 13 people, but we still delivered everything we needed to. And I go, 13 people for one full-time equivalent annual salary, right? We can come up with a government rating on a number on how much you saved. You still delivered the results, but you did it through a manpower savings, and this was the dollar amount. You with me? I mean, you did the same thing with fewer people. And it's just understanding how to tease out and show the layman who was not somebody who wore the uniform for 25, 30 years, how, and we just have to help translate them in their language. And math is the language that you want to translate it to, right?
This is where modern times could help out with in other industries. I've heard of people doing this in the fitness industry. They've uploaded the workouts they did for a year into ChatGPT,
Yeah.
and then had it analyze it, say, hey, what was I missing? What should I have done more of? What kind of workout should I have done differently? Why
Absolutely.
wouldn't that work the same here? Upload all your fitness reports,
Yep.
awards, anything you can.
And then start asking it questions.
Well, and
yeah,
have it ask you questions to dive deeper. Hey, do you have any more insight on this situation? And it could just help you jog your memory, organize stuff, find your snippets. Not necessarily, create on for this particular job, you had those 13 people you were missing, and therefore this. Like, you probably still have to kind of figure that out on your own, but why not use
really
ChatGPT to analyze your own career?
And listen, this is something that you're preparing for eventually in your interview process, right? And having those conversations. But day one that you step into your career progression, you can start building these 3-minute responses, right? In other words, mathematically, right? What did you do in this job? What goodness did you do? And so it's just something to kind of think about. And we help members navigate that space. So just to let me tie it all up and we'll knock out this segment. The anatomy of an interview, right? Starts with that icebreaker question. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What brings you to us here today, Scott? Navigate that. Now you're in the heart of the envelope, right? You're going to be looking at those behavioral, situational, competency-based questions. There is a little bit of a niche realm out there. It's called a case-based study interview. And I won't go into great detail about it. There are companies like Deloitte, companies like Ernst & Young, McKinsey, Johnson & Johnson. We've had members land there that have gone through case-based study interviews. A case-based study interview is a legit kind of standalone process. There are models that will help you navigate that. For everybody listening, if you think you're going to step into a case-based study interview, you better reach out to us and we can help you prepare for that accordingly. It is a unique animal, but it will typically be something like, hey, Scott, welcome to your case-based study interview. Hey, here's a copy of the New York Times. And oh, by the way, we are advising a client, an airline, and in 90 days, we think that they're going to be declaring bankruptcy. And so I want you to go ahead and read the article, and there's a little bit of amplifying information. Then, hey, Scott, here's a marker. There's a whiteboard right there. And then I want you to outline your plan on how we're going to advise this company to stay out of bankruptcy. Go, right? Just take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, read all this stuff, and then tell me how you're going to approach this. And that can be a little bit daunting. It's usually a real world problem. It's usually very current. And, a little bit of a spoiler alert, right? I don't think in most of those instances, they're looking for the 100% answer. But what are they looking for? They want to see your approach. How are you going to approach this problem, right? They're very interested in that. Now, if you nail the approach and have some recommendations at the end that are kind of aligned with what would make sense, then you've probably done very good. But the point is, don't approach a case-based study interview cold. And that goes back all the way to one of the very first things that I tell our members. Scott, would you believe, and maybe this isn't a shock to you, but most of our members are very senior leaders. And when we talk to them about practicing for an interview, making sure they've got the questions down, they're like, Mike, what are you talking about? Hey, this is just a discussion, senior leadership. I do this all the time. And I'm like, stop. This is not that. Don't don't lull yourself into that false sense of security that you're going to step into an interview environment and it's going to be just like talking to your former boss in a very, strategic discussion. No, it is not that. People are going to be firing you questions. They're going to be assessing your responses. You don't get to say when the meeting starts. You don't get to say when it ends. You don't get to do any of that. You're not running the show here, right? Make no mistake about it. You're at their whim, their pleasure, right? And that's just enough for those individuals who don't prep accordingly. You step into that environment and all of a sudden you go, oh man, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore, right? This is a different place, right? And it becomes uncomfortable. And so they live through some uncomfortableness that was completely avoidable if they would just take us at face value here and just say, look, we navigated this space. I'm telling you, I lived through this. I'm telling you, don't do what I did. Prep accordingly, prepare, right? And understand this is what it's going to look like. So you have the icebreaker phase, Scott. Then you got the heart of the envelope that'll be filled full of these type of situational based, competency based questions, or perhaps a case based study. And then you'll know you're getting to the end of the interview, and it'll sound something like this. Hey, Scott, appreciate your answers. Man, I really enjoyed our conversation. So you know what? We got a couple minutes left, Scott. What questions do you have for me? Right? Somebody's going to just throw it. It's going to sound something like that. Or, hey, is there anything that, we can answer for you on us? And that is really a green light, right? That is your opportunity to learn something that you didn't know about the company that you are pursuing. And a couple of pitfalls here. You're going to be tired. You're going to be exhausted. You see the finish line in sight and you just want to say, hey, you know what? Mike, great. It's been great. I enjoyed it too. No, I don't have any questions for you. That falls flat. Scott, I'm telling you, we have not hired people because they did not have the intellectual curiosity to spend 5 minutes and ask us hard questions. I've walked away from people. You're not interested? Are you kidding me? I gave you a green light to ask any question you want. You with me? And you're going to
you're just about to commit your new life to working for this corporation, walking in with our logo on, and you're not curious about.
And you don't have a question about anything. And so this is where we tell members you have to prepare. Take a look at some recent articles on the company. Understand strategically where the company is going, right? And then just say, hey, you know what, Scott, I did have a question for you. I saw where the company is opening up a new office in the UK. And, my assumption is that the business line is going to continue in that realm. But, do you foresee any changes for the company and its strategic vision and view and growth? And how does that affect, our team directly? And that'd be a great question to ask somebody, right? Like, well, hey, Mike, that's great. Yeah, the company's going to open up this. And you get into a dialogue. And so you want to have 2 or 3 of those questions just kind of in your hip pocket. You with me?
What about, I mean, because the reality is, you're in for the job interview, they're the ones that are going to make the offer, but, they might make an offer and you not accept it. And then they're out a person that they wanted. So you do have some power here, right?
Absolutely.
But that mean you can ask questions like, well, what's the potential for upward mobility? Or, are you going to be willing to pay or give me bonuses?
Yeah, there's some red flags there, right? That you probably don't want to throw out at this time. Hey, does the company is there a really sound work-life balance? Right? Probably not where you want to throw out a question like that. You want to show that you're interested. You want to show that you've done your homework on the company. You're excited about stepping into this opportunity. Questions for, well, like what's work-life balance? Well, how much are you going to pay me? All of that was deep dive information that you should already know before you ever reach this point, right? You did your market analysis on the company. You understood, hey, this is likely what it's going to look like. I've talked to enough people in the company. I've done my homework. I think this is a good fit. Now get excited about it. Show them you're excited about it and ask intellectual challenging, questions that perhaps you're going to learn something, but you also let them know that you're interested. Does that make sense? I mean, you don't want to throw out stuff like that. So you've got the anatomy of the interview. Now, here's the $1 million question. I know we're coming up on time here, Scott, so I'm going to wrap it up with this. Everybody comes to me and they go, yeah, great, Mike, this is, the different types of interviews. This is the anatomy of an interview. Mike, there's no way in the world I can predict what questions are going to be asked of me. And I'm like, you know what? You're 100% right. But I can tell you, if you've networked accordingly, if you have really taken a hard look at the position description that you're applying to, if you've looked at the company's online material and website, I can almost promise you, I could nail down, I can get you in the 85% window of what this company's going to ask you. It should come as no surprise that if on a position description, the hiring manager writes, successful candidates applying for this role will have, skills that we view as requirements in the following areas: clear, concise communicator, strategic thinker. You've seen it, right? It just lists all these things. Hey, here's some requirements. You have to be able to do these things. Well, it should come as no surprise if they listed it on a position description. You ought to have a pre-planned 3 to 3.5 minute response for every single one of those requirements on there, and therein comes your homework. And the question will sound something like this. Hey, Mike, tell me about a time when you had to demonstrate your clear, concise communication skills. What was the situation? And talk to me about the outcome of that situation where you had to engage in that. You better have a response. And in an interview environment, you want to come across conversationally, Scott. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is practice. You're going to have these 3.5 minute responses already thought out, rehearsed. So I'm just going to be able to relax and just deliver you my answer in a star format, mostly focused on the results. And that's the homework, right? You're going to spend 45 minutes to an hour in an interview structured, engagement. And you're going to spend 10 hours putting this thing together. But the work you're doing here is never throwaway. You'll use it for multiple interviews. So I'm going to tell you, spend time and do this. I don't care if you put it on flashcards. I don't care if you write the answers out, and then you're going to time your responses so it's conversational. Hey, you know what, Scott, that's a great question. That reminds me about a time where I was working in the shipyard. We had a large team that did these kind of things. There was a lot of confusion was going on. And you know what? I instituted a weekly, face-to-face engagement so I could clearly and concisely communicate to everybody what their goals, not only for that week, for that month and that quarter and the timeline associated. So once everybody had an understanding, things just started kind of happening and clicking because I was able to focus on that, right? Whatever your situation is, right? Have that prepared response for them. So you're going to have probably, 10 or 11 questions you're going to have 3.5 minute responses for. Then you're going to look at the company's website. And if the company, much like maybe the Navy, like it's founded in honor, courage, and commitment, and every page on the website you go to, it's some allusion to that branding phrase, man, you better be able to talk to that in an interview environment. Hey, Mike, tell me a little bit, we're very passionate about our brand where it's honor, courage, commitment. What does that mean to you, Mike? And how do you roll that out in your daily execution, right, of roles in this role and responsibility? You better be able to talk to it, right? You're going to have networking conversations, right? You can go and just say, hey, Scott, really good networking discussion here. Hey, if you think back, a year prior, when you were approaching the company, what were some of the challenging discussions you had during your interview assessment and some of your screening calls? Oh, Mike, man, you bet. I remember I got asked this question and the company's big on this. So make sure you're up on that. Okay. Make a note of that, right? You go through that spectrum. I'll guarantee you, Scott, you're right. There's no way I can 100% accurately identify every single question that's going to be asked you. It's not going to happen. Can I get it down to about 80, 85%? You bet. You bet I can. And that remaining 10 or 15%, you're going to be able to pivot and tailor one of these responses to somebody's answer. I almost promise you. And that's the prep that you need to do as you're stepping into this. And for everybody that's listening out there, don't wait until some talent acquisition manager or hire manager says, hey, we want to interview you next Wednesday. And you're going, well, I better get busy. You're already behind the power curve, right? The second you decide that you're going to target this company, you need to start building some of these responses, right? And have them built so you can bring them out. And yes, practice them, time yourself, right? There's a lot of resources that are out there. And Scott, when we put this together, we can list a lot of these resources that are out there. I know LinkedIn's got an interview. It'll film you and it'll ask you questions and you can go back. There's some other resources out there. AI will do a lot of this stuff for you. USO has one. Big Interview is another tool that's out there. I encourage you to use these things. And listen, this is what I'm going to tell you. It's hard for our membership. They all come up and they go, Mike, I'm a senior leader. Come on, man. I'm a flag officer. I'm a 06. I do this all the time. I'm going to go, no, you don't. Not like this. And don't confuse the two because they're not the same, right? And don't lull yourself into that. Practice. And you heard it, last week, right? How do you get good at doing pull-ups? You do pull-ups. How do you get good at answering interview questions? You answer interview questions. Right.
Probably, maybe something senior leaders haven't done in a while is go get a battle buddy and just sit and role play.
Yeah, absolutely. And so have your battle buddy look you in the eye and go, you know what, Mike, that was a terrible answer. You lost me. I couldn't even follow you on that. I had no idea what you were talking about. And man. So, Anyway, so Scott, holy cow, we burned up almost, 50 minutes here, pretty darn quick. So
yeah, man, no, you packed that one full of good stuff. That was great.
I don't know. We probably have maybe a wrap up next week on the same topic. You think, right? More on the preparation and I think we could probably wrap it up maybe next week, do another one. Although we got a cohort next week, so it'll probably be either next Friday or we'll look for the following week. So whatever you think. And you're muted. Check your mute, Scott. We may have lost Scott. We did so good with no IT woes. And here we are. There you go. I got you back now.
1 second.
Okay. I think he's maybe going to log out and log back in. So we'll see what we get here. But if anybody listening or looking at this thing, if you've got questions, reach out to us, shoot them to us. We're happy to kind of help you guys navigate this space. It is an awkward space as you step in and prepping for your interview. So I think the biggest takeaway would be not lull yourself into that false sense of security, right? Don't think that you were, a good communicator wearing the uniform in staff meetings out there. And now you're just going to step up into this interview environment in Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin. Well, you fill in the blank for whatever company you want to do. You got to prepare.
Yeah. And maybe there's a situation where you over prepare and they just schmooze with you and it's like,
and that's okay. I would rather be over prepared than under prepared, right? Absolutely.
Because the reality is, what have we found that, you land in your first job, and then a new opportunity pops up a year or two later and you're like, well, you know what? And then that next one, you might have to do an interview. Imagine having already have that work done, have some real world experience with the existing company, but still be able to fall back on it. Like there's likely, more often than not, there's a chance there's going to be a second interview down the road. Maybe even to move up in the company, you'd have to
Absolutely. I love it.
So,
well, great discussion, Scott. I appreciate you teeing it up, man.
No, for sure. And, glad we're able to get it out this time. I think you packed a lot into that. And I was just showing the guide you've put together a little bit while you were chatting, just to show kind of the resource you have available to review as people are going through this. But All right, man. Well, do you have a cohort next week?
We do. Next Wednesday, we're in fact, we're got just another great group, right? We're at the Booz Allen Twin Oaks corporate offices there in Norfolk. And we'll knock that out. So excited to do that. We're already starting back in March, right? We're back up to Pax River. That cohort is already sold out. April down in Orlando, Knock TSD, that cohort is already sold out. Shield AI in Arlington in May, sold out. Looks like Airlant is coming to the table. We're going to host them in mid-June. They'll have, their event filled as well. July for us is filled. The Naval Academy in September, some open seats there, but don't wait. We're taking registrations now, and we're back to Pax River in August as well. So, man, that's crazy, right? We're already looking at fall, and all of our fall cohorts, all the way through December, Scott, are already taking registrations right now. So we tell members all the time, man, I feel terrible. Like I just say, don't wait, don't wait. And we have every single month, we have people go, hey, Mike, I'm trying to get into the cohort, but it won't let me. And I go, dude, that thing's been full for 5 months. And we've got a waiting list. It's 10, 15, 20 people long. So don't wait, right? If you want to get in, you've got to look long and you got to get your foot in the door, right? So,
yeah. Well, anyway, good problem to have, except for, obviously you want to, help everyone, but kind of the key is, what makes this work is, keeping the cohorts small and stuff. But I know they can still get on Blue Water Digital, and
they can. Yep. They absolutely can. They can request access there, and it's a valuable tool for them.
Cool.
Scott, I always love our conversations, man. Thanks for making the time. Enjoy it.
No, thank you. Appreciate you sharing the insights with all those out there who need it. Right? So
you know what? And over the last 5 years, we don't have to make stuff up. Our members bring their insights right back to us, and it aligns exactly with the message that we put out here today. Right?
No, and again, that's why we do this show is, we're just sharing what we're doing, one-on-one with people every day anyways. If we can get it out to more people, even if they don't end up working with us, they might be sitting in Japan or something. And it's just like, timing's not right. And yet if something we talk about on one of these episodes helps somebody think about something, I hadn't thought about that.
It's a good thing.
That experience. That's kind of what this is all about. But all righty. Well,
all right, sir. We'll do it again.
We will see you all probably not next week because you got a cohort, but we'll
maybe next Friday if you're up to it. We'll see.
Maybe we shift the show to Fridays.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting to start talking to people, Wednesday morning versus Friday morning. I don't know what's more helpful to people, right? So maybe we can. All right.
All right.
All right, sir.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good day.